Resume by Emma Curtis Hopkins. This is the practice book for the 12 lessons in high mysticism. Chapter 4, Faith. Commit to memory these Bible texts. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace. Faith is the confidence of things hoped for, in whom we have boldness and access with confidence by the faith of him. The revelation of the mystery, which was kept secret since the world began, but now is made manifest, according to the commandment of the everlasting God, for the obedience of faith. Concerning the work of my hands, command ye me. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. This is Thursday morning's study. Chapter 4, Faith. That nature rises up in us before which we have worshipped. The meek Jesus was worshipper before the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Therefore he must at some moment proclaim, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. I have overcome the world. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. Napoleon was meek before the generals of the French army and rose up head of the army. Joan of Arc was meek before the angels who had accompanied her all her life, and she rose up with supernal powers. Both Napoleon and Joan of Arc fell, because there is no nature worth practicing subservience unto, except the ruler in the heavens and the earth. Let the Lord be thy confidence. He will not suffer thy foot to be taken. Hast thou faith? Have it to thyself before God. God is the author of faith, as Paul wrote to the Ephesians, which Jesus of Nazareth caught so completely that the whole creation was subject to his strong word of authority. Faith is always associated with authority. Faith is confidence to command. One little spark of it, no larger than a mustard seed, would cause authority enough to move a mountain. Moses caused 2 million people to obey his latest command after the spark of authority flamed up in him. He had been meek and lowly to the loss of his self-consciousness while kneeling before God on the mountains of Midian. Self-consciousness is a poor stuff to present before men or nature if we want to command them, even for their good. Is it not self-consciousness that makes a person appear poorly before his neighbors? It is the wiping out of this tough integument that lowliness before the King of Kings accomplishes. Self-consciousness is sometimes called self-will, because it is a perversity of the whole constitution, and because the divine authority that rises out of its demolition is a new will. Elisha had all his life been lowly before God. He bathed the hands and feet of Elijah while yet his eyes were heavenward. Suddenly, no man in Israel had so much authority over men and nature as the hitherto meek Elisha. The exercise of authority is good exercise. It gets its kindling from practicing upon the most obedient servant first. The supreme God is the most docile and obedient servant. David commanded the high God, show me a token for good, that they which hate me may see it. He was astonished at the results of his firm authority. Thou, through thy commandments, hast made me wiser than mine enemies. Isaiah understood that we must practice commanding the supreme presence in the universe. While listening in lowly humility before him, he heard these words, concerning the work of my hands, command ye me. Jesus commanded the supreme servant, glorify thou me. On the cross, he cried, how thou hast glorified me. This is one of 2 translations of the words reported in Mark 14, as why hast thou forsaken me? Jacob commanded the angel of God's presence, whom he called God himself, I will not let thee go except thou bless me. Job said, I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. Jesus commanded the God of Lazarus. He commanded the God of the withered arm. Always lowly meekness rises to confidence to command. Napoleon could never really understand how he came by such commanding confidence, but we can see that it was by reason of his prompt obedience to the authority he recognized vested in his superior officers. Jesus told his disciples to speak to the supreme servant in the terms of the Lord's Prayer, as the firm insistence of their own lordship or hidden man of the heart, whom all authorities obey. It is a formula full of short commands to the great servant who asks, "Is anything too hard for me?" We will take Thursday to practice speaking to the great servant with firm command in the words of the hidden Lord's formula. We will speak it over and over 15 times, as the sick people do at the Water of Lords, when they are urging God to heal them by way of the waters. 15 is the number where the waters of misfortune cease to prevail against us. It is the number of using to walk above hardship. Notice that Marcella of the Roman Catholic Church taught her nuns the inner meaning of "Give us this day our daily bread." She said it ought to be, "Give me this day my supersubstantial bread." Our secret ego, our God spark, our hidden man of the heart, as Peter called it, must have the bread of heaven. Notice how "lead us not into temptation" has lately been translated as "let us not into temptation," or "let me not into temptation," meaning warn me when I turn away from thee. Notice how "forgive us our debts" is now understood to be "give for our emptiness thy substance." Paul called faith a substance. There is a great mystery about faith, which, as Paul's word substance, is rendered as confidence. In the margin of Hebrews 11th chapter, 1st verse, faith is the confidence of things hoped for. Grow more and more urgent, insistent, commanding as you go on repeating the great formula to the greatest servant amongst us. Let confidence solidify. Let the God spark speak. The gods love courage armed with confidence. End of chapter 4. Now, this is the chapter on faith. And of course, as all of Emma's chapters build upon each other, in the last chapter we had the forgiveness, the giving for, where we yielded ourselves to God and we've surrendered our human will. Emma calls this meekness, or putting on humbleness of mind. And the next logical step after you entered into this surrendering state of consciousness is this sense of confidence that dwells up and rises up from within you. Because you've aligned yourself with the laws of the universe, you're in tune with God and the divine, and there's a power that's greater than you that starts to act for you. Now, Emma doesn't mention the Lord's Prayer in this chapter here, but I think it's very important to tell you the Lord's Prayer as it's worded in the New Thought and the Science of Mind, and also in Emma's teaching. I'll also include it in the description section. And Emma says that on Thursday we should say the Lord's Prayer 15 times. And I think it's important that we honor this and that we actually go through and repeat the Lord's Prayer 15 times. So this is the Lord's Prayer according to Emma. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Give me this day my supersubstantial bread. Forgive my debt of confidence to command me. Let me not into temptation. Deliver me from evil. And so we would repeat that 15 times every Thursday as our Thursday morning lesson.